Alright, let's get into this. So another Q&A here. Uh, this one starts off as the understanding of global security lies in individuals' global understanding that hate is the enemy of all. That all of us must find our own unconditional internal love for ourselves. Love and respect for all life forms, gradual elimination of the causes and conditioning that trigger perpetual hate. Religious belief in fascism has been a byproduct of our age. Uh, the religions of the world are already are all man-made. None of us seek the truth of love. Blinded by our faith in our chosen deity, all of who are imperfect and flawed. All religions is an attempt to explain what man is, how he came to be, not an example of what a man can be. Let us not hide in the shadows of our own fear and misgiving over our own internal fears and failures. Rather, let us strive to awake all to the truth of God, that God owes and directs us all of our thoughts, deeds, actions, and we choose and allow it for the unconditionality. This is the only idea that will usher in a world into a utopia. We all desire a dream of religion, or all desire dream of. Religion, for all its good intentions, will not create or sustain conditions that will sustain love. Religion and all its various diverse forms only so division and intolerance. I will say unto all of you, find God and know God in the privacy of your own soul, and seek not public adoration. Yeah, I can't speak today. Adoration or seismic constructs of organized worship. The war machine fostered by the entire into the technological age must be gradually reduced by all parties involved in its production. Let us bring all men and women to a place where they can provide basic security, food, shelter, and water for themselves. Indeed, for all, lets us end the droughts, famines, uh, hardness. The world remains untapped resources, more important than oil, blood, and treasure. For water alone is necessary ingredient by all life. If all men are cared for in this way, the potential for achieving a desired of all mankind, mainly peace, happiness, and security, freedom of thought and action, um, prosperity of sustainable, renewable, and non-ending safe environment becomes more likely attainable, predictable, and achievable. Let all men strive to reduce the risk by the increases of the unthinking and the automatic technology upon created for destruction, for sake of profit and strength. I say to you all, this is not strength, but madness. Uh, veiling the senses of misunderstanding, resentment, and fear. Uh, where are we here? This is a long one. So, for no sane man would kill another without truthfully understanding a reason for immediately an undeniable risk to their own lives, millions of which are manufactured in the guise of the excuse of religion, intelligence, technology, ego, and profit. Let us all seek lasting peace that comes from understanding our place in the timeless universe scheme of things. For all will die, all will live and again, and return to the face of the consequences of your actions, or lack therefore. Should the age of man be characterized by a rule of man, for there is a higher, noble, honorable, ethical purpose for us all. Heed my words, all wise men of earth, else suffer the fire of the heavens and all eternity, by deception, deceit, uh, dysfunction, distrust, suffering, fate of our own collective hand, and extinguishing all light, life, liberty, and for all time. Okay, I can't remember exactly which video this was written on, and I don't know if this is somebody's own writings, or if it's just something that they're kind of, you know, sharing. I don't know, but the idea of a utopia, it's never going to exist. Look, and it's not that I'm pessimistic. It's just the thing is that we are different. Uh, yeah, everybody has different needs, you know, and it's not even so much the greed and the jealousy that you have to worry about. It's just the different needs at different times lead people around the world into different situations. Some people that are in the most lush lands don't know how to farm them, that type of thing. I mean, like, for example, it baffles my mind that in places like Africa, you know, particularly like middle Africa type of thing, where there's forest everywhere, it's jungle, but yet they can't grow enough to eat, you know. And I get that, yes, hot, humid weather doesn't always grow good vegetables and stuff like that. It's a problem they have in South America, but you can grow things in South America. You know, you can grow fruits a lot easier. But the thing is that the problem is when these people, even if you are to educate them, uh, they really have to come to it to themselves. Like same with the Middle East, they have to come to the conclusion themselves. And like I've always said, when people get tired of killing each other, they'll usually stop, but then they start again. Now the problem is that human beings have, in our modern form, been around for like 250,000 years roughly, that they know of. Maybe we've been around longer, who knows? Maybe whatever. But the thing is within that time, we still haven't figured it out. And it's really not that hard. Like, I mean, everything that's said here is very, very, you know, I would love to see that myself. But, you know, like the good parts here. But the thing is that in reality, think of the average human lifespan is, you know, what, 80 years, give or take. Okay, by the time you get it, you're usually pushing up daisies, you know. So the problem is that people usually don't learn from other people's experiences. They learn from their own, meaning that within a short lifespan of a person, the way they perceive the world is in their own view, not in somebody else's view. So it's not collective based, and because of that, you have individuality. No matter how collective we become as a society or whatever, we're always going to have individuals. You know, you know, this is the kind of the kind of oxymoron catch 22 that we kind of face, is that in order to, you know, all these individuals have to be collectivists, but they're still individuals. And by becoming extremely collectivist and this utopianistic idea of that everybody just shares equally, everybody just does everything, it works good on paper, but it never works good in reality. I mean, you know, you may be slightly hungrier than somebody else. Somebody else might be slightly hungrier than you, meaning you're going to probably eat a little more than somebody else. So no one's always going to get their fair share. You know, I mean, no one's always going to get their fair share. But what people can do is learn how to, and if you look at the world statistically, yes, the world is becoming a safer place. You know, it's less barbaric than it was, say, in the 1400s. You know, 1500s was pretty barbaric. 3,000 years ago was very extremely barbaric. That type of thing. So the world is getting less barbaric. That said, it doesn't mean we can't be slung back into a new dark age on a, you know, a handful of people throwing us into a big war somewhere, which would create such a dog eat dog type world, Mad Max kind of reality like we see in the Middle East. I mean, there's a lot of people probably don't realize that, okay, religion aside, yes, there's some things I will agree with for sure. Yes, pretty much all of the religious books are written by man. So I do factor that in. I really do. I'm not what you would call a religious scholar, or you know, you wouldn't accuse me of being a Jesus freak. But on the other hand, I don't necessarily deny that any of these books are wrong or right, because we don't know. We really don't know. That's the whole part of faith, right? Is that you're basing it on something that you can't prove, that you can't see and stuff like that. But to me, there's a lot of things, evidence that does seem to correlate some of the stories in some of these Bibles. And I think a lot of these Bibles are meant to be used together. I know a lot of people might take offense to that, but I do believe that a lot of these books are meant to be used together, because they all seem to describe the same thing, a different kind of view. For example, like the second coming of Christ and stuff like that. Even in the Quran, they mention Jesus more than they mention Muhammad. And with that said, you know, they recognize that Jesus as a man. They don't recognize him, and he will take, you know, his side beside their Messiah, the Al-Mahdi. So there's a little bit of a different kind of spin that they have, but they're talking about the same thing, you know. So they could be talking about an event that already is kind of past tense, because you never know, some things can get lost in translation. But if it's events to come, then only one of them can be right if these are actual going to be prophecy fulfilled. On the other hand, you know, from the Christian point of view, they're going to be, Jesus is going to slay the Antichrist. Uh, or I guess maybe Michael will be doing it. And stuff like that, so to speak. So they're talking about an incident that may happen, but the thing is it's a different belief of how it's going to happen. And with that, yeah, you're going to get your tribal wars. I mean, you're going to get your religious wars. But even if religion in itself never existed, okay, we can go back to times where we don't know of any known religions, but we never know if cavemen fought over religion. You probably say that that's impossible. Cavemen didn't fight over religion. How do you know? We weren't there. You know what I mean? Look, I remember watching a National Geographic documentaries on Cro-Magnon man and Neanderthals, and how these were kind of stupid, unintelligent, just kind of brutish thugs that had no emotional, like the Neanderthal women, if their baby got sick and died, they would just drop it and keep walking type of thing and just leave it there because they didn't have any emotions and stuff like that. And discoveries have kind of showed that no, Cro-Magnon man, which had a brain, the largest of the human brains, something like 1800 cc's or something like that, they had a big brain. And it turns out these guys were extremely intelligent. They learned how to make basically rosin for their spears. They even knew how to temper the shafts of their spears so that they could throw them without them snapping. They made jewelry. They made tools. They understood things. And of course, we have the cave paintings and stuff like that in Spain and France and stuff like that. These weren't stupid people, and they probably worshipped something. They probably had their own Bibles, and it could have been one worshipped the mammoth, the other one worshipped the saber-toothed tiger, and maybe those clans, you had like Clan of the K-Bear with like Daryl Hannah, that type of thing. Maybe that kind of stuff took place. We don't know, but there would also be the fact that even if there was no religions or there was no spirituality or anything like that, we're talking about a form of man that really isn't that much different than us today. Yeah, a little bit different. They were particularly Cro-Magnon man because they were like 6'6". They were big people, and stuff like that. And the Neanderthals were very beefy people. They were stocky people, not quite as tall, but about as tall as us. And the thing is that even without religion, they still resorted to cannibalism. They resorted to beating each other over the head here and there. So even they fought. So even they didn't get it. So if we say that we're so much smarter than them and stuff like that, but we're still doing what they're doing. We're just doing it in a different way. Again, just a different interpretation of the violence. So instead of beating each other over the head with rocks, we shoot at each other. So again, 250,000 years later, who's learned anything, right? So this is why I don't think a utopia can really exist. It's a nice idea, but it can never exist for precisely the reasons that I think our lifespans are not long enough for most people. By the time they get it, and you'll hear this in like war vets and stuff like that, where they talk about if they were to do it all again, they wouldn't have missed World War II type of thing for the world because it was definitely an exciting time, but they also wish they never had to go through it. And it's kind of a strange thing that you hear because you say, well, how could you say that? Like how could you say you wouldn't miss it for the world? You wouldn't have missed it because they felt a duty to it. Now that said, nobody ever wants to see that kind of hell, but yet we do it every day around the world where people intentionally put themselves into this hell. I guess maybe the saying is true: you make your own hell. But you take it's very easy to get into conflicts, and with such a short lifespan of most human beings, like I say, by the time you get it, that violence isn't the way. You're old and gray, and you're at the age where nobody listens to you anyway. You know what I mean? So, and then the cycle just repeats itself. So that's why we don't have this utopia. And again, it just comes down to depends where you are in the world. Yes, there's like education has a lot to do with poverty around the world. People who again live around resources that they could make use of, and very primitive resources that they can make use of. And with those resources, they could probably, like simple things like don't pee in the water you drink. To us, it makes sense because we're educated on that. It's not a good idea. But to a lot of people in the third world, you could tell them that, but they don't believe you. You know what I mean? You can tell them that till they're blue in the face. They still don't believe you because, again, if they get a disease, it's from witch doctory. It's not from, uh, it's not from, they don't understand what a disease is. They think it's some form of voodoo or something like that. And you might laugh at that, but that's a reality. That is reality for some people. And the thing is that when you're dealing with that kind of thing, you can't educate that away overnight, and you can't educate it away even in, 50 generations. People are going to hold on to their belief systems, whatever they might be. Some people believe in communism. Some people believe in libertarianism. Some people believe in voodoo. Some people believe in black magic. Other people believe in, magic is nor good nor bad. People believe all kinds of things. And even in the first world, look, Scientologists, these are not people, I wouldn't consider like John Travolta or what you call him, what you call it, Tom Cruise. I wouldn't consider those guys unintelligent, you know, but yet they believe in, something like that. So how can guys like that are intelligent still believe in something like that? And then, if you see what I'm getting at, like, this is why you'll never get your utopia, because their version of a utopia, okay, might be different from somebody who reads the King James Bible, you know what I mean, or somebody who's complete atheist. Here's, and that's another thing. I think it takes more faith to be an atheist than anything, because to say that, well, there's no proof. Well, I don't know. To me, there's enough evidence that says, okay, something happened that these books were written. So what was it? Is it divine or just something that happened in history? We don't know. We really don't know. But anyway, it was. I can go on this one. I do appreciate the comment. I like the idea of it, and I'm not being pessimistic. I'm just being realistic. I mean, if you look back in history, you can find several quotes of people talking about, in this day and age, you can go back 5,000 years. In this day and age, why are people killing each other? There's people who get it. There's people that just never will. And that's just the things we're going to have to learn to accept, whether we want to or not. Okay, getting on to the next question. Actually, this is kind of a neat one. History always repeats itself, but history always repeats itself, but this time it's a little too obvious that becoming a Nazi-based Ukraine isn't an ideal, considering these types of intense schemes are only going to work for the short term, not the long term. 100% agree on that. Now, you're probably, for those of you who might be dialing into this, well, like, what the heck is this Q&A thing, and coming into my channel the first time, the Azov battalion in the Ukraine, which I know there's some people out there that are very anti-Russian. I get that. What's going on in Ukraine, but you have to understand the annexing of the Crimea. Okay, yes, the Russians really used the propaganda on this one too. Sure, I get that, but it's not like they didn't have just cause. There are Nazis in the Ukraine. Like, I'm not saying people who want to be Nazis. These are the children of the Nazis. If we understand the history in World War II, what happened in the Ukraine, basically you had three choices. You could be a nationalistic Ukrainian dead in the middle between the Russian Red Army, or you could be a part of Hitler's army, SS. And the Azov battalion, which basically tracks back to George Soros money. Again, these guys never run out of bullets. These guys, that type of thing. You look at it for what it is. But they basically, the Azov Battalion A305B is based upon the 2nd Panzer Division SS Waffen. So yeah, they're based on, I believe that was Rommel's. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Or maybe that was a Panzer division that was, based in Ukraine. I don't know. So you'll have to look into the 2nd Panzer Division SS Waffen. That'll tell you where the Azov Battalion origins come from. Now, the Azov Battalion themselves are neo-Nazis. I mean, one guy had like a MG42 tattooed to the side of his head. He was a skinhead. And they have, like you'll see again tons of photos and even video of these guys. They got Nazi flags flying off their BMP-2 personnel carriers. They'll have Nazi tattoos. They'll be wearing Nazi jewelry, Nazi swastikas on their helmets. And again, not all of them, but the battalion badges, the Nazi black sun and stuff like that. And of course, they have Nazi pride days in the Ukraine. Like, it's a part of their history. And I'm not saying everybody in the Ukraine is a Nazi. The Ukraine is broken up into different ethnicities and a lot of, and identities, for sure. And it is a minority of the country that is still kind of clings on to that. But it's not a small minority. We're not talking 10, 15 people. We're not even talking 1,000 people. We're talking tens of thousands of people, maybe possibly a million. So yeah, there's Nazis in the Ukraine, and I know that upsets people when I say that. But again, my grandfather's rolling in his grave. And I have nothing against German people. I have nothing against Ukrainian people. But I'll tell you this, go back in time, yes, I do understand that history is written by the winners, and there's a lot of things people don't know about Hitler. Yes, Hitler was coaxed into a war. He was coaxed. I don't think he was a British agent like some say. I do believe he was just manipulated into a war. But a lot of people don't understand what the Nazis were. They even still to this day over here in North America, they pass it off that we went to war in World War II to save Jews from the ovens. That's not true. Most of the public never knew about Auschwitz and places like that until 1944, after D-Day. The British knew about it. They had mosquito bombers that would fly in, reconnaissance, 50 feet off the deck type of thing, going over these, taking pictures of these concentration camps, and they knew what roughly was going on down there, but they lacked the precision bombing to break the people out. They would, a 1,000-pound bomb would just kill everybody there. Later on, they were like, that might have been the more humane thing to do. But people didn't know. The public didn't know until after 1944. Now some people may have suspected and stuff like that, but the actual proof wasn't really until it was fully known. But we got into war over economics, and there was other things too. A lot of people don't understand what's going on today has a lot to do with what happened back then. Right now, okay, you have to look at the Russian Federation as an empire. You have to look at the United States Anglo-American Empire as an empire. You have to look at the Eurasian Pacific as an empire or a dynasty, whichever you want to pick one. Ming Dynasty 2.0, whatever you want to look at it as. But you also have to look at what were the Nazis. And this is very, very important because this is what you won't find out in history. You will never see this in a North American history book. But yes, the Nazis had over 15,000 Jews serve in the SS. Yeah, you heard me right. They had African Germans, who knows how many thousands of them. They had probably a few million Arab units in the, they had a specialty unit that, for Hitler. You're saying, yeah, but Hitler was a white supremacist. He was a right-wing guy. Well, number one, the Nazi Party, the Nationalist Socialist Party, is about as left-wing as you can get. They were like kind of a different form of communism. Like nationalism is nor good nor bad. It is on the left. It's collective based. But socialism is definitely on the left. So the National Socialist Party is on the left. So that's the first thing when you hear right-wingers. When you see nationalists, they're not right-wingers. I'm nationalist Canadian. The last 500 years of Canadian history, I'd like to preserve that. That's my thing. Now, what else was the Hitler regime? Well, number one, it wasn't a Hitler regime. It was the Third Reich. Well, what is the Third Reich? Well, the Third Reich was to last 1,000 years. Well, what was Hitler's favorite thing in the world? Rome. A new Roman Empire. That's what Hitler was building, a new Roman Empire. This is why it encompassed all these Middle Eastern countries. This is how they got into North Africa. They were let in. Many countries in Eastern Europe, for example, Hitler didn't invade a lot of countries. He walked in and they let him in with open arms. There were countries that yes, he rolled tanks into for sure, but like anything, Hitler was building an empire that is competing against the same empire that is around today, which is the Anglo-American Empire, which the Anglo-American Empire wasn't quite as flourished as it is now. You have to understand, when the British lost the, kind of the world reserve currency, back in the 1800s, and they kind of, early 1900s, kind of passed it over to the Americans. Well, now we're passing it over to the Asians, But the thing is Hitler, had he been successful, remember, it took 16 nations to take them down. He was close. And one of the things he liked about the Arab world was that he saw Christianity kind of as weak because it was too compromising. But he did respect the Islam because it was a kind of a very unapologetic. This is what we're doing and that's it. And he liked that, and that's what he wanted in his Third Reich. Now he didn't necessarily want Islam in his Third Reich, but he wanted competent people in his Third Reich. And the Third Reich again was going to be a new Roman Empire. I mean, look at all the status. Look at the helmets. Look at the the uniforms. Look at the banners. Look at the the swastika is basically the Hindu sign for wind, I believe, but just backwards. It's just they just flipped it over. So maybe they did that. I don't know why they did it that way, but that's the way they did it. The other thing too is the big eagle. These are all like ancient Rome. It was one of his favorite things, and that's what they went after, was an empire. Why? Because it was a threat to everything else. It was a threat to it would have engulfed all of Europe, and it would have been technically a new world order. And yeah, to think about it as a new world order is kind of weird because that's what we're dealing with now. But you have to understand there's several versions, like there is several different Bibles of new world orders. The Russians have an idea of their new world order. The Chinese have an idea of their new world order. The Anglo-American Empire has its idea of its new world order. And they never include the people on this. They enslave the people on this. But Hitler had his idea of a new world order. Now, getting to the Ukraine, yeah, you're correct. But you have to understand the Azov Battalion. These guys are going to be slaughtered in the end. They're going to be allowed to be killed. Why? Because again, they're not going to allow a neo-Nazi government run the Ukraine. In fact, Poroshenko is out there pretty much hiring anybody that's not Ukrainian. I mean, the government is now pretty much run by foreigners. But that was the design all along. But I'm pretty sure the Ukrainian people they're not stupid. They're picking up on it. Many of them might not know who George Soros was before the Maidan coup, but I'm pretty sure they're starting to figure out who he is now. And once they figure out who he is, they figure out who all these other people are. And I think it was like this week or last week for the making of this video, where a whole bunch more Ukrainian generals are flipping sides because they're like, okay, we see what, we see that the goal here is to keep a proxy war going with Russia. It's not to help the Ukraine. It never was. In other words, they figured out that the European Union deal that they were going to get, look, they still don't have free travel to Europe. They still don't have all this benefit from, they're basically cannon fodder right now. And I'm pretty sure most of the, even the Azov guys, you have to understand that, yeah, they're going over there to do genocide on the other side of the country to kill anybody ethnically Russian. Now, anybody ethnically Russian is picking up arms, and yes, Russia is backing them. But again, whether Russia would back these people or not, these so-called rebels, again, if somebody starts storming into your town, it don't matter who they are, you're going to shoot at them, right? You're going to defend your homeland, you're going to defend your property. But the thing is these Azov guys, okay, they use these guys to stage the Maidan coup. Then they kind of semi-half-assed armed them. What they were doing was they were sending them on, all these like really far away training camps, not giving them like little to no ammunition, just to kind of get them out of their hair. Why? Because they don't want a second coup. Problem is these are the guys that are going to do the second coup. Why? Because they're again, when they figure out what's happening, nationalists will take care of their country. They'll take care of their country. You find fault with that. But the thing is they'll also cleanse the country. That's the thing about these guys. They're neo-Nazis. Their goal, their mandate of the Azov Battalion is to kill every ethnic Russian they find. That's their mandate. That's not making that up. That's what they want to do. So when they're done with, let's say they kill every Russian there, well, then who do they turn on? Well, they turn on the rest of the populace. That's who they turn on. So at some point, yes, the Ukrainian military will be shooting at the Azov Battalion when the oligarchs that have been instated no longer want them. Number one, this is what the Azov Battalion is going to figure out, is that all the people that Poroshenko brought in are Jewish oligarchs. Pretty much all of them. Not all of them, but almost all of them. They're all foreigners. None of them are from the Ukraine. So the government is made up of foreigners. They're going to be pissed at that. So what happens when they start turning, and you've heard them say it, even the Ukrainian, I think a lot of the Ukrainian military will defect to the Azov Battalion, like Kiev 1 and Kiev 2, they will defect completely to the Azov Battalion. Why? Because they've said it. If Poroshenko doesn't deliver what he promised, which he's not, they can turn their tanks on, Kiev again, and this time, there will be no U.S. The U.S. won't be able to control these guys. I don't think Poroshenko has control over these guys as we speak, which means, at some point, what they're either going to do is say, okay, well, we can't control this anymore. Let the Russians take them out. And then when that happens, well, then there's another ethnic cleansing. Only this time, it's going to be more dead neo-Nazis than, and anybody ethnically Ukrainian. So the Ukraine is in a really bad spot right now. They're caught between two superpowers that are fighting. So anyway, great question. I can go on forever on that. But anyway, next one. Spectacular. Can't say you're a quitter or just stubborn, haha, in quotes. Went from a $30 board for kicks, and there you go, picking up a real deal deck. Enjoy it. Enjoy that. Will honk at you if I'm out up on the road the next time I head up. LOL. Well, as long as you don't run me over, I'm okay with that. Yeah, I did take up skateboarding again, and how do you go from talking neo-Nazis and skateboarding? Well, that's what these Q&As are all about. I'm loving it. I'm really getting into it, and I just discovered a Canadian-made skateboard company called Restless Longboards, and I was looking at them today, and okay, yes, I just bought a really expensive, well, for me it's really expensive, about a $300 skateboard, and I love it. It's a Sector 9 back door, and it was basically, now I think they call it the Shootout. This thing is just awesome. It's got gull-wing trucks and stuff. Even if you don't know what this stuff is, it's just a really carving board. I can describe it as surfing or snowboarding on pavement, or driving or riding a drunken bumblebee that doesn't know where it's going, and it's fun. But this is a carving board, so my next board is probably going to be one of these Canadian-made boards, one of these Restless boards, which is a slidey board, which I can do 360s and all kinds of crazy stuff with. But yeah, there you go. So that's where I'm at, and it's a lot of fun. Even it's just one of those things. It's a little bit better than going out jogging. I have nothing against joggers, but it's jogging. It's boring, and I've done a lot of cycling, so canoeing, kayaking. I do all that stuff. This is something new, or revisited new, because I used to skateboard when I was younger, but I never had skateboards like this, so I had some crappy ones, and yeah, now I got a really good one. So anyway, okay, hey, not all Muslims are extremists. Yo, thought you might know better. And you say there is no good guys there in the Middle East. We are talking about here. Show how ignorant and uneducated you are. I follow your channel for a while. Heck, I even donated, but I am canceling my sub since you've proven that you are no better than Joe down the street labeling and stereotyping. Please, people as you please. Okay, and somebody else responded to this guy too, and I wanted to respond to him because, well, number one, thank you for your donation. Number two, I do say things that get people going from time to time, and I apologize for that. But I think the other guy kind of answered what anyway, I'll just read it, and you guys go along with this here, and you'll see what I'm gonna add on to it. And this is somebody else answering to this guy. If you follow his take on things, you'd know when he says no good guys, he's referring to either the hierarchical leadership or either side, or the militants that do all the killing, which, yes, none of them give a flying duck about freedom or democracy. That I can't even say that better. So they kill for tribal and religious ideas. He says the same thing about Eastern Western world leaders and their puppets that dance in the Middle East. He also specifically states many times that he does not refer to the average guy or gal not killing people caught up in the carnage of governments as bad guys. Untwist your brain, or untwist your bra, have a Pepsi and chill. Okay, I wouldn't say that to the guy. But again, but that's what I know. I throw out generalizations all the time. Everybody does it. I'm guilty. My bad. I apologize. But yes, this when I say no good guys, okay, I'm saying being caught between a crocodile and an alligator that are both hungry. There's no good guys. You see what I mean? Like, if that's a better analogy that I can use, that you're in a bad spot no matter how you look at it. Being caught between a raging bull and a charging rhino. No good guys, one's not better than the other. We're not going to argue over the semantics of being eaten by an alligator or a crocodile. What we're going to look at is, why are we being eaten by an alligator or a crocodile? And that's when I say, like, the ISIS fighters, these guys, they're loyalist jihadists. These are what I call you've heard me refer to, if you've been following the channel for a long time, as the Hydra. the Hell Hydra. These guys, this is their cause in life. This is their Woodstock. This is what they want to do. They want to go kill. If there was nothing going on in the Middle East, even if the war on terror never took place and 9/11 never happened, there would still be tribal wars in the Middle East. Not as probably as bad as it is right now. But the point is that to argue a Free Syrian Army soldier is better than a Houthi or better than a Sunni or a Shiite or an Alawite. As the people, yes, I can understand that there are people there fighting, because they're being bombed to the Stone Age. I get that. I can understand why people pick up arms when people bomb their houses and kill their children. I can understand that totally. But I also understand the guy who's getting paid to just go shoot at people from the back of a Humvee. And I also understand the guy that ends up in a foreign land somewhere just following orders, walking down a country just following orders, shooting people willy-nilly because they might fit a description of a terrorist, just following orders. I get that as well. Again, no good guys. Why? It's death and destruction. It's nihilist. There's nothing good about it. But it doesn't mean the people are bad as a general. Again, I can't say the people floating in the Mediterranean right now that are fleeing Libya because of the, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton doctrine that overthrew Gaddafi. Okay, yes, I understand the people, that are seeing them end up in Greece and Spain and Italy. Yeah, they're overwhelmed and stuff like that. But these people that are floating in the middle of the Mediterranean, these are not bad people. These are desperate people. They're not bad people. But the ideology that gets these things going, like for example, to argue who's better, Saudi Arabia or Israel, when they're both in cahoots together in arming ISIS. Israel treats, as soon as the ISIS guy comes across the border, just says, I'm a Free Syrian Army, and they'll treat them in the hospitals there. The Saudi Arabians bought the weapons, okay, with U.S.-backed money to send to Libya to overthrow Gaddafi, who turned into a bigger form of ISIS, who, with the U.S. military sending all this money and years of training to the Iraqi military, who when outnumbered 4-1, ISIS outnumbered 4-1. Again, the luckiest proxy army in the world says, hey, you know what? We got 1,800 guys here, and you're 20,000 guys. If you're there when we get there, we're going to kill you all. What do the 20,000 guys do? Rather say, come on, we'll take you on. Well, they leave their weapons there for these ISIS guys. Again, are they just that lucky? You know what I mean? Again, no good guys. The 4,000 Free Syrian Army guys that got trained in Jordan, which now are known to be ISIS guys, again, no good guys. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the common person that's getting, artillery shelled and shot at and stuff like that. I'm not even talking about, I do understand the difference between a jihadist, a freedom fighter, a terrorist. I do know the difference between them. And I basically say there's like 3 types of terrorists, or 3 types of, we'll brand them as terrorist for now, but there's 3 types. Under the terrorist, people look at it as one thing, but it's not. It's several. And again, it gets complex. Your first type of terrorist is the narcissistic Hydra, Hell Hydra. I need a cause in my life. They're nihilist. They just want to kill for the cause. They don't care what the cause is. They don't care if they're fighting over tribal. They don't care if they're fighting over resources. They don't even care if they're fighting over dead family members. They don't even care if they're fighting for money. They just like to fight. In other words, we'd call them mercenaries. The number 2 guy is the brainwashed, going for his 72 virgins, kill the unwashed masses type of thing. This guy is the type 2. The type 3 is, hey, I was sitting there having breakfast with my family. I just kissed my daughter goodbye to go to school. Next thing I know, as I left the house, a drone, a Hellfire missile came in through the window and killed all my, my family, my wife, my 3 kids. Where's my AK? Sir, I'm not going to call you a terrorist. I understand why that guy picks up his firearm. You know what I mean? I get that. And anybody that can't get that, well, again, they need to check their head. And the thing is, and this is one of the things you will not get in the West, is you will not get that conversation. You will not get that out of a world leader. You will not get somebody to say that. That said, can I bash Islam? Yeah, damn right I'm going to bash it. I think it's an insane religion. But I also believe you have the right to follow it as long as you do it peacefully. Same as any religion. Homosexuality, I'm not a big fan of it. But, it's not up to me to make judges for your life. You have to judge for you. But I also say, as long as you're leaving everybody alone, and that's what the whole When I say I'm a nationalist for Canada, the charter rights and values that we have here in Canada, that's one of the big things that we say. That's one of the first things. Yes, you have the right to freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom of expression, as long as they don't infringe on each other. And that's how I view the world. So even if you don't have your charter of rights and freedoms that I have in your country, I'm judging your country based on my charter of rights and freedoms. So as long as you're not infringing on, as long as the Shias are not infringing on the Sunnis, again, let them practice their religions. They're not bad people. But as soon as they start shooting at each other, I'm not going to argue whether it's better to be eaten by an alligator or a crocodile. It's just bad to get eaten. So anyway, if I offended you, I do apologize. And I do wish you, again, I'm going to throw things from time to time that's going to make your blood boil. But I do wish you would stick with the channel. It's just, again, this is one of the things about my channel is that it's open for discussion. This isn't about my ego or anything like that. It's not even about, uh, who's the first to report this story or that story. My channel is basically it's an open platform. It's for you guys, and I don't censor my comments. And obviously you can tell I don't censor my comments because I do read I do read a lot of stuff about people who kind of bash me pretty good too. I mean, hey, when I step out of line, people put me straight. I don't get away with anything, which is good. Why? Because that's the spirit of debate. So even if I do say things that offend you, and I do get people that watch me that don't agree with me on a lot of things, but they watch because it's like, okay, I'm not bashing you. I'm bashing the system. I'm always going to bash the system, and I'm not going to apologize for that. But on the other hand, it's that's the whole point of this thing is that if I was to tell you and preach to the choir all the time and tell you everything you want to hear, well, you could watch mainstream media. You know what I mean? I don't tell people what they want to hear. I'm talking about ugly, ugly, horrible things that are happening in the world. Now, I do it obviously with a bizarre sense of humor that I got. I'm a kind of a morbid person like that for sure. But on the other hand, I am talking about things that a lot of you can't talk about on mainstream media. You can't talk about this stuff. It's too sensitive. But that's the whole point. That's the beauty of it. Is I could talk about something that is not supposed to be talked about. It's taboo. And think about the horrible atrocity that actually is, not being allowed to be honest. And that's why I do what I do. So, yeah, stick with it, okay? you know, you know, was it? And I mean this in the most kindest way possible. And I'm gonna quote from the other guy: "Untwist your bra, have a Pepsi and chill." So come on back, okay? All right. So anyway, hopefully that guy will come back. And again, I don't always want to invite just people who agree with me. I want to bring in people that don't agree with me. Counter my argument, please. That's the spirit of debate because I think that's the first stepping stone to learning, and I also think that's the first stepping stone to a more peaceful way. And if they actually could, even just doing this, what we're doing right now, if they could do that in the Middle East, I bet you'd be a lot more peaceful place. In other words, people have to work things out amongst themselves. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. Okay, so anyway, next one. Um, what's the point of owning an M14 again? 5-round mag limit, and it looks like you're quite a hoarder. Well, I'm messy. I wouldn't call myself a hoarder. Uh, I don't know how you got hoarder, but okay. I won't. I won't. Yeah, up here in Canada, unfortunately, we're stuck with a 5-round magazine limit. That could go down to nothing if the NDP wins the next election. Unfortunately, I believe they are going to. But polls are kind of unreliable that way. You don't know what questions asked. You don't know where the questions were asked. And the fact that it's on the CBC. Right now, the CBC, the last election, they were really rooting for the Liberals. This time, it seems like they're going for the NDP. But Thomas Mulcair said he was going to restore the $150 million that the Harper government cut from the CBC. That just kind of makes me want to more vote for Harper. You know what I mean? Why? Again, he's the lesser of the evils. As bad as, and I'm not giving the guy a reigning endorsement, but unfortunately, Harper has been one of the best prime ministers we've had in a long time. So what does that tell you? Okay. Anyway, moving on. I've watched many Hollywood and Bollywood action movies, and there are huge mushroom like explosions during all fights and all that. So how to know whether the explosion in the video actually is a neutron bomb or something else exploding? That's the so-called neutron bomb that was supposed to have been dropped on in Yemen. either with Israeli Saudi joint airstrike. I believe it was a bunker buster, just because of the way it blew up. It just everybody's eyes would be like completely fricazed, and the fact that there's camera footage, I'm inclined to believe it was just a bunker buster. Yes, the weapons we have now are super powerful. Some of them get they mushroom clouds are not that hard to produce, especially when you're talking weapons as powerful. But also, weapons that are designed to go into bunkers will tend to shoot a cloud straight up in the air. Uh, I also talked about daisy cutters, the big, big bombs that they would drop in Vietnam, and they now I think it's called Moab or whatever it is. It's just a huge 25,000-pound airburst bomb. This thing, it will create a mushroom cloud, but it creates a huge pressure shockwave that shoots outwards. It's to level a large area. So if you're taking out an air base or something like that, or jungle or a city, whatever, it's like a environmentally friendly nuke without the radiation. I don't know how you'd really describe it other than that. But a bunker buster is a very specialized thing. It needs to blast through concrete. It needs to go maybe several stories into the ground or into a bunker. So it's going to blast instead of outwards so much. It's going to blast downwards and then back out. Going straight up, so that would probably give it the more appearance of a nuke. Thing is it just I don't think wasn't bright enough. I mean, a welding flash is about 14 times brighter than the surface of the sun. So if you were to look at a welding flash with your eyes, you could actually blind yourself, and you'll actually get burn your corneal in your eye. You know where your color, the color is in your eye, or the iris part. You'll actually see people that do a lot of welding. They'll get like it almost looks like bronze in there, or and that's actually sun tanning their eyeball. It's very bad for you. That's why you can't look straight at it. Now that said, if the welding flash is 1,400 times brighter than the sun, you have to understand a nuke is even more brighter than that, maybe by 1,000 times. Meaning, if you look at it, you're blind. That's number one. If you're in the blast zone, there's not much you can do. But if you're not in the blast zone, and if you see this thing coming in, see it streaking across the sky, look away. Even looking away from it can still blind you. It's just that bright, So I guess I'm gonna leave it at about that. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to wrap this one up, but this was a good one. Yeah, so if you like this kind of content, please consider making a donation to the channel. Thank you so much to everybody who has. Thank you very much. And rate, subscribe, share, comment. Maybe you agree, like I say, maybe some people agree with me, some people don't. Counter anything you want to, again, this is open for debate. This is not just for me, this is for you guys too. I like it when people participate, and argue amongst yourselves. Try to keep it civil if you can. But next to that, yeah, have fun with it. So again, if you do have a specific question or something for one of these Q&As, because I kind of really do like doing them, because I get to go through your comments and give you a good detailed kind of other than just my regular yip. So it's nice to do that and give you a nice detailed response like that too. And it's a lot easier than typing. Not that I'm lazy. Okay, I'm kind of lazy. But anyway, yeah, so be true to yourself, be true to others, always do the right thing, and have yourselves a great day, eh? G'day, hi, and welcome. Alright, let's get into this. So another Q&A here. This one starts off as the understanding of global security lies in individuals' global understanding that hate is the enemy of all. That all of us must find our own unconditional internal love for ourselves. Love and respect for all life forms, gradual elimination of the causes and conditioning that trigger perpetual hate. Religious belief in fascism has been a byproduct of our age. Uh, the religions of the world are already are all man-made. None of us seek the truth of love. Blinded by our faith in our chosen Deity, all of who are imperfect and flawed. All religions is an attempt to explain what man is, how he came to be, not an example of what a man can be. Let us not hide in the shadows of our own fear and misgiving over our own internal fears and failures. Rather, let us strive to awake all to the truth of God, that God owes and directs us all of our thoughts, deeds, actions, and we choose and allow it for the unconditionality. This is the only idea that will usher in a world into a utopia. We all desire a dream of religion, or all desire a dream of. Religion, for all its good intentions, will not create or sustain conditions that will sustain love. Religion and all its various diverse forms only so division and intolerance. I will say unto all of you, find God and know God in the privacy of your own soul, and seek not public adoration. Yeah, can't speak today. Adoration or seismic constructs organized worship. The war machine fostered by the entire into the technological age must be gradually reduced by all parties involved in its production. Let us bring all men and women to a place where they can provide basic security, food, shelter, and water for themselves. Indeed, for all, lets us end the droughts, famines, uh, hardness. The world remains untapped resources, more important than oil, blood, and treasure. For water alone is necessary ingredient by all life. If all men are cared for in this way, the potential for achieving a desired of all mankind, namely, mainly peace, happiness, and security, freedom of thought and action, um, prosperity of sustainable, renewable, and non-ending safe environment becomes more likely attainable, predictable, and achievable. Let all men strive to reduce the risk by the increases of the unthinking and the automatic technology upon created for destruction, for sake of profit and strength. I say to you all, this is not strength, but madness. Uh, Veiling the senses of misunderstanding, resentment, and fear. Uh, where are we here? This is a long one. So, for no sane man would kill another without truthfully understanding a reason for immediately an undeniable risk to their own lives, millions of which are manufactured in the guise of the excuse of religion, intelligence, technology, ego, and profit. Let us all seek lasting peace that comes from understanding our place in the timeless universe scheme of things. For all will die, all will live and again, and return to the face of the consequences of your actions, or lack therefore. Should the age of man be characterized by a rule of man, for there is a higher, noble, honorable, ethical purpose for us all. Heed my words, all wise men of earth, else suffer the fire of the heavens and all eternity, by deception, deceit, dysfunction, distrust, suffering, fate of our own collective hand, and extinguishing all light, life, liberty, and for all time. Okay, I can't remember exactly which video this was written on, and I don't know if this is somebody's own writings or if it's just something that they're kind of, you know, sharing. I don't know, but the idea of a utopia, it's never going to exist. Look, and it's not that I'm pessimistic. It's just the thing is that we are different. Uh, yeah, everybody has different needs, you know, and it's not even so much the greed and the jealousy that you have to worry about. It's just the different needs at different times lead people around the world into different situations. Some people that are in the most lush lands don't know how to farm them, that type of thing. I mean, like, for example, it baffles my mind that in places like Africa, you know, particularly like middle Africa type of thing where there's forest everywhere, it's jungle. but yet they can't grow enough to eat. And I get that. Yes, hot, humid weather doesn't always grow good vegetables and stuff like that. It's a problem they have in South America, but you can grow things in South America. You can grow fruits a lot easier. But the thing is that the problem is when these people, even if you are to educate them, uh, they really have to come to it to themselves. Like same with the Middle East, they have to come to the conclusion themselves. And like I've always said, when people get tired of killing each other, they'll usually stop, but then they start again. Now the problem is that human beings have, in our modern form, been around for like 250,000 years roughly. That they know of. Maybe we've been around longer. Who knows? Maybe whatever. But the thing is within that time, we still haven't figured it out. And it's really not that hard. Like, I mean, everything that's said here is very, very, I would love to see that myself. But, like the good parts here. But the thing is that in reality, think of the average human lifespan is, what, 80 years, give or take. Okay, by the time you get it, you're usually pushing up daisies, So the problem is that people usually don't learn from other people's experiences. They learn from their own, meaning that within a short lifespan of a person, the way they perceive the world is in their own view, not in somebody else's view. So it's not collective based, and because